Good day. My name is Professor Oliver, and you've joined me for another English grammar lesson for English 030 and 101. Today's subject will be remedies for run-ons, because run-ons are one of the most pervasive sentence level issues that students often have. And so in order to avoid those very critical issues with understanding and clarity and whether or not you've actually expressed the idea that you meant to express, we'll have to learn how to fix our sentence level issues. So today we're going to discuss what a run-on is and how we can fix it. The definition of a run-on is anytime you have two or more complete sentences or independent clauses that are strung together without any definable disconnect or connection that needs to occur. And so anytime you have two or more sentences that have been kind of smushed together with no appropriate or correct break between them, you have a run-on. And so I do want to clarify, though, that there are slight differences in the level of sentence level issues that might occur. And so anytime you have no breaks between two or more sentences, it's a run-on, and oftentimes we will refer to run-ons with the short abbreviation RO. But you will also see sometimes in some handbooks the notion of an FS, a fused sentence. To fuse or to run on is essentially the same thing. On the other hand, you might also have a run-on that is actually only incorrect partially because there was an attempt to show a break. And so whenever you have someone who has just kind of thrown in a comma in an inappropriate spot, that instead of being referred to as a run-on is known as a comma splice. So you'll see the abbreviation CS whenever that happens. But that's when you have just the comma and not all of the appropriate other connectors. So, how can we fix a run-on? Well, there's a few options. The first option is adding a comma plus a coordinating conjunction, one that's appropriate, to connect the two or more independent clauses or complete sentences that you have run together. And we're going to talk about fanboys more, but the coordinating conjunctions are known as fanboys. And so we'll talk about those and what they actually mean. Another possible solution for fixing a run-on is to just start a new sentence. So you put a period where it would normally go or where it should go, and then you begin anew with a capital letter. So you just basically made two or more complete sentences that stand as individuals with a full stop. You could also have a semicolon connecting the two or more independent clauses, and so if you decide to do that, though, you have to keep in mind that there are a few rules that go along with that option. And then finally, you could just add transitions past your semicolon or whatever other terminal punctuation mark that you have. And that way you have recognized that you're continuing an idea, but that you have taken a break. And so we'll look at all four of those options specifically. So we have here our holistic example. My daughter attended the Oak Hills Academy. I was not impressed with it. That is our run-on sentence. So we recognize that we need to break this up because you've got two sentences fused together. So the first option, again, was to just add a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So I could have my daughter attended the Oak Hills Academy, comma, coordinating conjunction, but I was not impressed with it. So that's one option to fix that run-on. Another is to just start a new sentence. So my daughter attended the Oak Hills Academy, period. I was not impressed with it. Two separate sentences. You could also have the semicolon. My daughter attended the Oak Hills Academy, semicolon. I was not impressed with it. And so again, recognizing that there are rules that go along with joining two complete sentences with a semicolon. And then finally, having the same option with the semicolon and adding a transitional word. My daughter attended the Oak Hills Academy, semicolon. However, comma, I was not impressed with it. So let's take a look at those individually using our examples. The fanboys. There are going to be very few times this semester that I require you to memorize anything, but I truly do want you to memorize the fanboys. They are very simple. There's only 7 of them, and you have that lovely mnemonic device in order to assist you with memorizing it. So, the fan, the F in fan stands for for, the A stands for and, the N stands for nor, the B for but, the O for or, the Y for yet, and the S for so. Anytime you use any of those 7 coordinating conjunctions, you are acknowledging that not only do you have 2 individual clauses or complete sentences that are being connected, but that they are on the same level. They may not express the same idea or same strand of an idea as with the case with but they are still coordinating, meaning they're working together. That notion of they're on the same level. So neither one of them is being reduced or diminished by the other one. If you're going to connect 2 independent clauses or complete sentences with semicolons, the only issue that you have to keep in mind is that you must have the sentences be related. So they have to be related in some way in order to join them with a semicolon. So we have our example here. Joel Diaz is a writer. He lives in New York. If we didn't have that semicolon there, we would just have Joel Diaz is a writer. He lives in New York. Standard run-on. But adding that semicolon acknowledges that we are discussing Joel Diaz and he lives in New York. So we have subject-verb combinations, Joel Diaz, he lives. So both are complete sentences. They're discussing the same thing or have the same patterning, so you can connect those using the semicolon, and that's no problem. If you choose the option of transitions, you want to keep in mind that you have to choose a transition that makes sense. And this is by no means a comprehensive list. Your text has a page and a half of appropriate transitions that might be used in these situations, but I do want you to recognize that anytime you're using them, they have to be used appropriately. So we saw the example before where you had the first independent clause, the first sentence, followed by the semicolon. Then you have the transitional word. And in this particular case, it was a conjunctive adverb. We're going to talk about that later. However, nevertheless, consequently, things like that. But anytime you have that, you'll have independent clause or complete sentence, semicolon, the adverb, the conjunctive adverb that follows, and then that followed by a comma before you have the next independent clause. So let's review. Today you've learned about run-ons and how we define them. We know that they can be called a few different things depending on the situation. So anytime you see FS for fused sentence or RO for run-on, you know that we're discussing 2 or more independent clauses or main sentences being smushed together without the appropriate connectors. You also know that the only difference between a run-on or a fused sentence and a comma splice is that the comma splice is missing that appropriate coordinating conjunction. So don't forget that anytime you're going to fix it using that option, you have to have both the comma and the appropriate coordinating conjunction. So there's a formula that you need to follow. And then finally, you've learned that with all of the issues with run-ons, fused sentences, or comma splices, any of those, that there are 4 possibilities for fixing them. Thanks again for joining me for another grammar lesson. If you have any questions, please see me in class.